Hello friends, you're on the Ruslan Bailov channel, and today we'll discuss the situation in Ukraine on 24 September 2025. The last 24 hours were busy. There has been advance, counterattacks, and significant changes on several key sectors. Let's go through them in order. Stepnohorsk. Confirmation is coming in that Russian units have advanced in the southern part of Stepnohorsk and reached the town's southwest outskirts. Ukrainian mappers are publishing footage showing the movement of assault groups. Ukrainian FPV crews are actively engaging them. This is predictable. Dense urban housing, a developed industrial zone and pre-prepared firing points always create a kind of street chessboard, where every multi-story building becomes a separate strongpoint. Sector significance. Stepnohorsk is a node of tactical logistics. Control of the southern districts cuts Ukrainian short resupply routes and the local detours used for medical evacuations. Loss of the south will force the Ukrainian units to fall back to the northeast, abandoning pre-prepared second-line positions. For the Russian side, this creates an opportunity to shift the front line onto more favorable heights and establish dominating fire over the remainder of the urban area. Tactics of the parties. The Russian side is pressing with numbers of assault groups and dense UAV reconnaissance. The Ukrainians respond by saturating the forward edge with FPV drones and mining approaches to the neighborhoods where they still hold pockets of stability. Electronic warfare is active on both sides, so some drones fall into the grey zone, but the tempo of urban expulsion continues. Forecast. At the current pace, sweeping the southwestern sector will continue, with a subsequent push to the line of dominating heights north of the industrial zone. The key Ukrainian task is to prevent a break in communications and hold the central blocks at least as a divided quarter. Russia's task is to keep the tempo while not exposing its flanks to counterattacks through inner courtyards. East Zaporizhia direction, Kalinivske, Berezove, Sosnovka. The Vostok grouping continues methodical operations. The 29th and 36th armies are pressing the salient between Berezov and Sosnovka, while burning out the tree belts west of Kalinivska. Open-source footage clearly shows FPV strikes hitting small field shelters and prepared positions where Ukrainian units held machine gun pairs and ATGM teams. The task is straightforward: deny the enemy anywhere to cling and create conditions to cut the salient. Sector significance. As long as this salient exists, Ukrainians can harass the flanks and slow further northward advances. Cutting the salient evens the front line and splits Ukrainian forces into two local groupings, both already strained by short logistics. Fifth Army. On the Fifth Army sector, the maps show no cosmetic changes. Consolidation on new lines is underway, engineering works and clearing corridors, and expansion of strongpoints to a company level. Distances to Uspenskyivka and Poltavka are now minimal, effectively the distance for starting assault operations. The objective is not merely to enter, but to occupy dominant houses, just warehouses on the first beat, and prevent the populated areas from swinging back and forth. Forecast. After slicing the salient between Berezov and Sosnovka, expect a trial phase of assaults on Uspenskyivka-Poltavka, combined with systematic clearing of all tree belts on the approaches. If Ukraine does not bring up reserves and a springy counter-strike line, the front line will shift 2,004 km north. Pokrovsk sector, Vladimirivka, Novotoretsk, Zapovidne, Boykivka, Fedorivka. This is the most volatile point over the past 2 days. Ukraine has been mounting active counter-actions from Vladimirivka toward the southwest, aiming to reach Novotoretsk. Concurrently, there were attempts via Dorozhne and Zapovidne toward Boykivka. On 22 September, advances halted at a company strongpoint near Boykivka. 23rd, a pause. 24th, the maps suddenly reddened in favor of the Ukrainian side within Novotoretsk itself and around Zapovidne. Fact. In footage showing a Russian assault group in central Novotoretsk falling into a prepared ambush, it's clear that at least part of the settlement is under Ukrainian control, while other parts are grey, where teams are fighting for short streets. This complicates supply to Russian groups north of the area. The choke. The entire Russian penetration in the Boykivka area rests on a chain of strongpoints: Fedorivka, Boykivka, Mayak. The width of the neck is in places under 2 km. That is critical. Any successful wedge into the middle can cause a pinch, splitting of the salient, and force a realignment of the line with a withdrawal. What's being done? Reserves have been rushed to the choke, flank strongpoints are being reinforced, and UAV spotters have been deployed to prevent Ukrainian incursions into the corridor. Mine and explosive protection is actively employed at the forward edge so that any Ukrainian thrust meets a toothed barrier. Possible developments: holding Boykivka. The salient is maintained and Russia attempts to re-penetrate central Novotoretsk to gradually push Ukrainians from Zapovidne. Loss of the Boykivka strongpoint. The salient splits and the line recedes to more stable positions. The encirclement threat is removed, but the gained depth is lost. Russian flank counterattack. With available reserves and successful artillery preparation, a countercut through Novotoretsk streets could push Ukrainians back into the western private sector. Forecast: the next 48-72 hours will decide whether the salient survives. If Ukraine fails to exploit success, the narrow neck will be held through engineering and saturation with FPV or ATGM. If Ukraine exploits it, the line will retreat east to more sustainable heights. Konstantinivka sector, Klebanbayk, reservoir, SE Dacha areas of Konstantinivka. After an operational pause, the Russian side has resumed offensive actions in the Klebanbayk area. Ukraine retains control of the northern part. The southern sector is lost. A network of Russian strongpoints on the Ukrainian bank of the Kryvyi Torets allows Russian forces to cover short resupply routes to the reservoir with fire. The distance to the waterline is under 1 kilometer, which, given direct sight lines, makes any Ukrainian attempt to secure dams a risky maneuver. Sector significance: closing the south of Klebanbayk removes the threat of a sudden crossing counterattack for Russia and opens preparation for pressure on the southeast dacha arrays of Konstantinivka. From those dachas, it is convenient to place observation posts and correct fire toward urban nodes. Tactics: methodical, reducing the low ground is underway, clearing vegetation, cutting out pockets in the reeds, and clearing garden communities where small groups habitually gather for night sorties. Strike UAVs, seal windows and yard passages. Engineering work brings strong points to company strength. Forecast: if the current tempo holds, the south of the reservoir will be consolidated and focus will shift to the southeastern Konstantinivka suburbs. For Ukraine, it is vital to hold the urban quarters adjacent to the dachas. Otherwise, a step for a deeper entry into the town will be created. Siversk sector, Vyemka, Perezdne, Zvanivka, approaches to Siversk. The Ministry of Defense previously reported the clearing of Perezdne. The current main effort is between Vyemka and Perezdne. Fields, tree belts, and a toothed line where the opponent tries to cling to every copse. The logic is simple: level the front, shorten distances, and approach Zvanivka directly. Sector significance: a move towards Zvanivka creates for the Siversk garrison a threat of partial encirclement from the south and southeast. Any supply runs into the town, especially under conditions of equipment shortages, become irregular, while evacuation turns into a risky task. Tactics: the Russian side is actively using pencil bundles. Recon UAV, mortar pair, assault duo, on a short leash. The Ukrainians respond with sheaves of FPVs against outgoing assaults and try to enforce positional exchanges around tree belts to slow the tempo. So far, they managed to avoid a collapse of the line, but the loss of Perezdne and pressure towards Zvanivka worsen the situation. Forecast: if Russia consolidates on the approaches to Zvanivka, Siversk will end up in a partial bypass. The Ukrainians will have to either withdraw part of their forces beyond the town or risk the encirclement of individual company strongpoints on the outskirts. Lyman sector, Zarekhne, Stavki, Derelov, Novoselivka, Shandriholov. Key point: Zarekhne, according to the Russian MOD, is 60–70% under control. This is not just a check mark, it unlocks the road toward Lyman and Yampil. In parallel, there is movement towards Stavki, while Derelov is practically at the final stage of clearing. Neutral mappers note partial Russian control of Novoselivka, while Ukrainian supply to Shandriholov has been cut. Terrain: the area is saturated with lowlands and floodplain spurs, making any dash without smoke or EW cover suicidal. At the same time, if the defense isn't folded quickly, it has a chance to drag on. Hence the emphasis on short thrusts with immediate consolidation. Forecast. The fall of Chandri-Holov is a matter of time. After that, Ukraine's western Lyman line will lose its anchor, and the sector will shift several kilometers. Next comes a combined strike on Yampil and further pressure on Lyman's southern approaches. Kupyansk, urban house-to-house clearance. The official numbers are methodically updated. Out of 8,667 buildings, more than 5,600 have been cleared, with another 115 added in the last 24 hours. This is not dry statistics, it reflects the urban chessboard, where each block is taken, secured, and then the assault pivots toward adjacent sectors. Method. The grid is divided into squares, each held by a core assault company with engineer support, medevac, and UAV bundles. Houses are breached top-down, roof, attic, floors, basement. A mandatory rule, double check of basements and inter-entrance passages. The Ukrainian side tries to leave sleeper points and mine stairwells, hence the heightened requirements for sappers and K9 search teams. Significance. Kupyansk is a key railway hub. Losing the urban area wipes out Ukraine's ability to maneuver operationally in the northeast sector of Kharkiv region. After the town is secured, fighting will logically shift to Kupyansk-Uzlovy and Kurilivka. Forecast. At the current tempo of ±100 and 150 objects per day, full control is a matter of the coming weeks. For the Ukrainians, the key is to prevent Russia from establishing stable logistics inside the town, strike at thin spots in supply, and hit company strongpoints on the flanks. Kharkiv region, northeast, border, Serhivsky Forest, Kolodazne, Vovchansk, Sinelnikove. Russian units report advances along the state border. The Serhivsky Forest is declared under their control. Movement is ongoing toward Kolodazne. On the Vovchansk axis, the pressure field is expanding. The forest near Sinelnikov is 30–40% under Russian control, which directly prepares the ground for battle for the settlement itself. Tactics. In the woods, the bet is on triangles, UAV observer, mortar, assault pair. The Ukrainians counter with motorcycle groups carrying FPV boxes on luggage racks, trying to sting on the flanks and retreat into clearings. EW is dense, so some FPVs crash before reaching targets, but some still get through, making forest fighting extremely costly in both resources and manpower. Forecast. If Russia consolidates on the southern edge of Serhivsky Forest and moves toward Kolodazne, the front will reach a logical line, convenient for further pressure on Vovchansk from the east and southeast. Sinelnikova, once the forest is lost, cannot hold for long. A settlement without cover of greenery becomes a vulnerable patch. Strikes on energy infrastructure, Kharkiv. During the night, UAV and air-dropped bombs struck Kharkiv's energy facilities. Targets, substations, distribution hubs, and infrastructure responsible for peak load transfers. This fits the previously declared line, to inflict maximum damage to the enemy's power grid by winter. Effect. Even partial hits on nodes force dispatchers onto restrictive schedules. Cut off non-priority consumers and overstretch repair crews. For the front, this means unstable power to repair bases, degraded communications, and weaker logistics in frontline districts. Logistics, engineering, air defense, EW. What changes on the ground logistics? Both sides economize on long-haul transport, shifting loads to short-range pickups and light trucks. At night, active movement, daytime, limited, under smokes. Any convoy without UAV cover risks being chewed apart by FPV swarms. Engineering. Russia accelerates converting strongpoints to company level. Not just a dot in the field, but a mini-node with full-depth trenches and covered OPs. Ukraine responds with deep mining and belts of IEDs along likely assault routes. Air defense, EW. At the tactical level, both sides keep mobile SAM-SPY-G closer to deployment lines. EW densely covers low altitudes. Trend, dispersed air defense in small cells to avoid losing everything in a single strike. Weather, ground, visibility. The day was stable, with scattered showers. Fields remain passable, forests sticky but manageable. At night, typical woolly visibility. UAVs fly, but crash rates rise due to condensation and careless light use at positions. Both sides blame their human factor. Key point, for the coming week, there's still a maneuvering window. No large-scale mud season yet. Risks and opportunities in short, Russian risks. The narrow neck at Boykivka. Loss of a single company strongpoint, Chushind risk of salient split. Russian opportunities, securing full control of Zarekne and expanding pressure on Yampil, shifting the whole Lyman sector. Ukrainian risks, the chessboard in Kupyansk. Loss of another few hundred buildings turns defense into isolated pockets. Ukrainian opportunities, developing success in Novotorets-Zapovidne to strike at the supply neck and force Russia back to stable lines. Day's summary and outlook for the coming week. Stepnohorsk, Russian pressure on the southwest outskirts continues. Ukrainians strike assaults with FPVs. Vital node, holding center north, gives Ukraine time, but trend is Russian. East Zaporizhia, burning tree belts and preparing to cut the Berezove-Sosnovka salient. Next step, Uspenkivka, Poltavka. Pokrovsk, Novotoretsk, Zapovidne, Boykivka. Critical choke, struggle for the supply corridor, decision horizon, 2 to 3 days. Konstantinivka, Kleban Bike, south practically closed for Ukraine. Actions building from Dacha areas SE of town. Siversk, Pereizdna cleared, pressure on Zvanivka, risk of partial envelopment from the south. Lyman, Zarekne nearing full Russian control, Derelov nearly cleared. Novoselivka, partly Russian, Shandry-Holov logistically isolated. Kupyansk, systematic clearance, after the city, logical pivot to Uzlovy and Kurilivka. Kharkiv axis, Serhivsky forest consolidation, move on Kolodazne, prep for Battle of Sinelnikov, energy strikes on Kharkiv ongoing. Friends, that's all for today. We've walked through all key sectors, reviewed where advances and counterattacks are happening, where the narrow spots lie, and what it all means on the operational level. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit like, and share your opinion in the comments. More frontline updates are ahead. Stay safe.